Now, if you're looking to start some sort of Sarms cycle, there's a few things that you'll want to keep in mind. So that's the first thing you need to do. Hey everybody, I want to encourage you to go check out my new channel. It goes over business, investing, making more money on a monthly basis, everything that has to do with business and owning your own business, passive income, real estate. It's going to be an awesome channel, and I just got it started with a 60-day challenge to go from $0 to $10,000 per month in recurring revenue. So go check out my channel. It's called B is for Biz. I got the idea from a guy who has an awesome car channel called B is for Build. I recommend you go check that out as well. But this channel is called B is for Biz, B-I-Z for business. B is for Biz. Go check it out and subscribe if you're interested in following along on my journey to go from 0 to 10K a month in recurring revenue. And that's something that you guys could do as well if you are motivated. So go check out my channel, B is for Biz. And thanks for watching today's video on this channel. What's up guys? Today's video we are gonna talk about Ostarine. It's one of the most popular SARMs out there. People typically use it for either really lean mass building or cutting. I personally have not taken Ostarine, but I have found it very interesting. That's one of the first SARMs that I ever considered taking because it's really the one that's been around the longest. There's been clinical studies done on it, and it was actually first developed in the late 90s. The company that formed it, GTX Incorporated, was founded in 97. And they quickly processed this drug called Ostarine. By 2007, this SARM, Ostarine, was in phase 2 clinical trials. And now they did a couple clinical trials for this, and you can go on government websites and see the clinical trials that happened. There were 3 phase 3 clinical trials where they tested to see if it could prevent muscle wasting in lung cancer patients. They also tested this for like prostate cancer patients. In 2011, there was a study where they basically tested whether Ostarine could prevent muscle wasting in elderly men and in postmenopausal women. And they found that it actually could significantly increase lean muscle mass without the negative side effects of steroids. So that's kind of the main study where people get the idea that SARMs have 0 side effects compared with steroids. And really that's not true at all. SARMs do have side effects. It just depends on the person whether the side effects are going to be bad, or whether it's just going to be mild side effects, or whether you're not going to have any side effects. And the same go for taking steroids or taking creatine or a multivitamin, something like that, right? It really just depends on the specific individual whether or not you will get side effects from it. So some people might take Ostarine and have 0 side effects whatsoever. Some people might take Ostarine and have 0 effects whatsoever. But on average, most people, what I've found, have been able to retain anywhere from 3 to 8 pounds of lean muscle mass on a 3-month cycle. And this isn't just, young guys that are 25, 30 that are taking Ostarine and able to gain muscle mass. These are actually elderly men and elderly women that have been able to take Ostarine and gain lean muscle mass without actually working out, which that's the crazy part to me. There wasn't actually stimulus added in order to gain this muscle mass. And worst case scenario, they maintained their muscle mass, so they didn't have any muscle wasting while they were taking Ostarine. So that is very, very, very interesting. Now in 2013, GTX Incorporated announced that basically Ostarine had failed in their phase 3 clinical trials to prevent muscle wasting in people with lung cancer. Now I don't really know what the difference was between the 2011 study and the 2013 study, and why the 2011 study showed that it could significantly increase lean muscle mass in elderly men and women, and in the 2013 study it actually failed in just simply decreasing muscle wasting. So it's perhaps that it just wasn't statistically significant. Perhaps there were flaws in the 2011 study, but anecdotally, a lot of people have seen some good muscle gains on Ostarine, or at least have prevented muscle loss when they're on a cutting cycle. So that's kind of up for you guys to do your own research on, but Ostarine typically has been shown to be able to at least add 3 pounds of lean muscle mass in a 3-month period. Now, you might be looking at that and saying, man, 3 pounds in 3 months, that is just nothing. Now, if you're one of the people that are saying that, then you shouldn't even be considering taking Sarms, because if you think that 3 pounds of lean muscle mass within 3 months is nothing, then you haven't been working out more than 2 years, most likely. And the reason I say that is because if you're an individual, an advanced lifter who's been lifting for 5+ years, 4+ years, 3 pounds of lean muscle mass in 3 months, that's insane. You're looking at gaining naturally maybe a 1/4 pound to 1/2 pound of lean muscle mass per month naturally. So in order to gain 1 pound of muscle mass each month, that's just lean, rock solid muscle mass that you're able to keep after the cycle. If you can gain 3 pounds of lean muscle mass in 3 months from Ostarine, that is basically quadrupling the amount of muscle mass that you would gain by not taking anything at all. So if you're one of the people that thinks 3 pounds of lean muscle mass in 3 months is nothing, then most likely you're not an advanced lifter. You've still got noob gains going for you where you're able to gain 20, 30 pounds of muscle mass each year. An advanced lifter is really lucky if you can put on 5 pounds of lean muscle mass each year. And that's just the sad truth. I mean, it's been a while since I've been able to gain consistently a pound of lean muscle every single month. I mean, that just hasn't happened for years, and that's just how it goes because your body adapts. You get up to your genetic threshold, and it's just harder and harder and harder to put on lean muscle mass. Now, backtracking a little bit, in 2008, Sarms were banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency, and that's despite the fact that there'd actually been no clinical trials that had surpassed and finished yet. Remember, the first phase 2 was in 2011, phase 3 was in 2013, and so in 2008 there were already drug tests developed by the World Anti-Doping Agency that could detect all SARMs. Now, that doesn't mean that the competition that you might want to compete in has those drug tests and will be testing for SARMs. So that's just something that you have to consider. If you are a competitive athlete, a bodybuilder, a power lifter, you just have to look at your federation, see what they test for, see what they allow. And I'm not advocating anything, but it doesn't mean that since there are tests developed that those tests are going to be used. So that's just something to consider. Now, it's important to remember that Ostarine still is not approved for human consumption, and I don't think it will be anytime soon. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't get it. It just means that you have to get it from a source that has not packaged it for human consumption. So if you're trying to buy Ostarine or trying to buy any SARM, and you get it in a bottle just like regular, let's say test boosters. You get it in a bottle like test boosters, it's already packaged up and capsuled. That's not Ostarine. I don't care what any company tells you, that is not Ostarine. If it is, it's illegal. They're selling it illegally because it's not approved for human consumption. Now, of course, this is just within the United States. I don't know any of the regulations for any other country, but if a company is selling something, they're claiming that it's Ostarine, they're claiming that it's another SARM, it's actually not, okay? And if it is, they're selling it illegally. So if you're looking to get SARMs, it has to be from a company that is selling it for research purposes only. So, and I'm not saying that you're going to take those yourself. You might use them on a lab rat and see, how much muscle gain that lab rat gets. But I'm just saying that don't be fooled by these supplement companies who are claiming to sell SARMs, because most of the time they're going to be pro hormones. You're going to get gyno, you're going to get those puffy nipples, and you do not want that, right? So you need to be careful if you're looking at taking some of these things, and you really need to do so much research on this. I've been doing research on SARMs for the past 5 years since I first heard about Ostarine, because if you're into bodybuilding, you're into weightlifting, you want to know as much as possible about what's out there so you can, weigh your options, so to say. So that is what I was dealing with. And yeah, I just wanted to learn as much about these compounds as I could. And that's something that I discovered. There are companies out there that are packaging things that they say are SARMs, and realistically, those things are most likely pro hormones, and you do not want to mess with pro hormones. Most pro hormones come out and they are on the market for a couple years until the FDA catches on and bans them. So you really don't want to get involved with pro hormones at all. So I would just be very wary of that. Now, if you're looking to start some sort of SARM cycle, there's a few things that you'll want to keep in mind. Now, I would go and I would look and see some Ostarine before and afters. Now, keep in mind that those people could be on a variety of different compounds, and it might not just be Ostarine. So don't expect too much from these. What I would recommend, if you're going to do a SARM cycle, I don't ever recommend doing a SARM cycle, but if you are going to, you've already got your mind set on it, look at before and after pictures and, just weigh your options, but don't expect too much. Expect to get a little bigger, expect to get a little leaner, but really just gauge your own results once you start taking this compound. Now, there's a few things that you'll want to keep in mind when you're on the SARM cycle. What I suggest, you need to get blood work done before the SARM cycle. Now, it's super easy to get blood work done nowadays. You don't need an order from the doctor. You can go online and search testosterone blood work. Just Google that. There are many companies out there that send you a kit. You just prick yourself, you send it into them, and they'll be able to get your blood work done for you, tell you what your testosterone levels are. You never even have to leave your house. So that's really what you care about, is what's your free testosterone. And the reason for doing this is because you want a baseline. You want to know, what is my testosterone naturally? And then after your cycle's done, you want to know, okay, what did my testosterone drop to? Because some of these SARMs, Ostarine, is supposed to not be suppressive for testosterone, which means it won't shut off your natural testosterone production. But you want to be darn sure. If your testosterone is 800 pre-cycle and your testosterone is 400 post-cycle, that means Ostarine had a pretty significant effect on your testosterone, and you want to get that back up as soon as possible. So I always recommend having a baseline, knowing what your testosterone is naturally, and then after you do your SARM cycle, your Ostarine cycle, you need to get another blood test and see where your testosterone is sitting. So that's the first thing you need to do. Get a blood test before your cycle. Second thing you need to do is try to find a reputable source for Ostarine, one that sells it for research purposes only, so that you can use it on your lab rat, right? So I don't recommend using Ostarine for human consumption, but if you have a lab rat that you want to gain some muscle on, then go right ahead, perfectly legal. So that is what I suggest. You need to find a reputable source that sells these things. Now, how you can find those sources, sometimes people drop names on forums, on a lot of research forums, but you kind of have to take a chance. Since this stuff isn't approved for human consumption by the FDA, you'll find a few websites out there, and you kind of have to just order it and take a chance that they're gonna take your money, or that they're gonna ship you something that is not actually what you expect it to be. So there's that risk that you're going to take, and for some people that risk is too great. But once you do find a good source that sells, legit Ostarine, legit SARMs, then if you want to do future cycles, you can trust that source and you can get other compounds from there. So that's what I suggest. You need to find a reputable source that sells it for research purposes only. That's very, very important. Nothing that is in capsules is going to be a legit SARM, because that's packaged for human consumption, and it can't be. It's got to be in a liquid, or it's got to be in like bulk powder. Okay, last thing, you need to get a PCT. Now that means post-cycle therapy, and basically what the point of the post-cycle therapy is you're taking these additional compounds, these additional drugs that basically help get your natural hormones back to baseline level. So even with Ostarine, you're taking something that kind of messes with your normal hormones. Think of it as like a birth control for women, right? It's messing with the hormones a little bit. So you need to get your natural hormone production, your natural testosterone production back to where it was before you ever took anything, right? So that's what the post-cycle therapy drugs do. So you're looking at drugs like Clomid and Nolvadex. Now those drugs, they are available in the United States. If you have a prescription for them, great. So you need to find a source for those as well. Clomid was developed actually as a kind of a booster to help people get pregnant, to help couples get pregnant. That drug helps with getting your testosterone back to normal levels. So, you know, these drugs are strong, so you need to just kind of start at half doses and see what that does for your own individual body. And you need to look at the side effects of those drugs as well. So, you know, I'm not recommending taking any of these things. I'm just walking through the steps so that for your lab rat, you can take it through the proper steps in order to get its natural testosterone production up. So that's what you need to look at. So first thing, blood work. You need to get your blood work done beforehand. Second thing, you need to get a reputable source for the SARM, so you're not feeding your lab rat anything that is not an actual SARM. You don't want to give your lab rat pro hormones, right? So, and third thing, you need to get proper post-cycle therapy drugs. So that would be Clomid, and Nolvadex is actually just a blocker for the nippleary region so that you don't have any possibility of getting gyno. So it blocks the estrogen receptors near your nipples, so you can't get gyno. It doesn't help if you already have gyno. It's not going to get rid of that, but you would take Nolvadex the whole time you're on your cycle so that it just blocks those receptors in your nipples so that they're not going to get puffy. Okay, final thing, get your blood work done after all of this to see if your testosterone is equal to where it was before your cycle. That's very important. Very, very important, because you want to know where it sits now. You know, if your testosterone is 100 and it was 600 beforehand, then dang, that was really suppressive, and you still need to be taking some post-cycle therapy to get that back up there. So anyways, guys, that is basically a walkthrough of a full Ostarine cycle. I didn't go through the dosages or anything like that. There's plenty of information out there that you can get that from. But again, I don't recommend taking any of this. I don't recommend taking anything. I take that back. I just made a video on the 3 supplements you need to be taking, which is protein, creatine, and fish oil. Do your own research. You got to make that decision for yourself, whether it's something you want to get into. But Ostarine is one of the SARMs that's been around the longest. It has had a few clinical studies. So I would say it's one of the safer SARMs to be taking, even if that even is a thing, which it's really not. So anyways, guys, drop a like on this video if you found this information useful, and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you in the next one.